Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the options evening tonight. It's an exciting time, isn't it, in your child's education? This is their opportunity, really, where they get that element of choice in what is going to be their next stage of the study. As I sat back reflecting, I was thinking on their journey through school, starting in year 7, we are pretty much at that halfway point between year 7 and year 11. We have studied a wide range of subjects, gaining the knowledge to be successful in the sciences, successful in the arts, exploring languages, practicing our music, and also being successful in sport and a variety of sports we would have tried. That's just a taste of what's happened across the curriculum. But now, as this midpoint of year 9, we start to look forward to Key Stage 4 and what that has to offer for us. And yes, there are a core element of subjects, some subjects that you have to study, there's no choice around. But alongside that, there is an element of selection, of thinking about those subjects that will help you progress to whatever your future holds. Those qualifications that you believe you're going to be the most successful in, the qualifications that are going to prepare you for the next steps of education, of training, of employment. Whatever they may be, whether you come back to our sixth form, which hopefully many of you will do, or whether you're looking at further afield, different places. So the best person to talk you through this is Mr. Price. Mr. Price, many of you know, is assistant head teacher here at the Minster. He oversees the options process. He's in charge of the school timetable. He's the person that makes sure things work on a day-to-day basis, that you go to the right lesson. But importantly, when it comes to the option process, he tries to make sure that you can get the combination you want. Not always possible, but the majority of the time, for the most of you, you will get those subjects you wish to study. So to talk you through the process, to talk you through the deadlines, to talk you through what's happening, I will hand over to Mr. Price. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm aware that I've got an audience here of both students and parents. Much of this presentation is the same as the presentation I gave to the students already on Monday, but it's helpful to hear it more than once, and it's really helpful for parents to hear what it is that their children have been told. So, as we're coming through the options process, there are a number of questions that you might be asking. Why is this important, or even is it important? What choices are available? How do I choose? And who's going to help me to choose as I'm going through? By the end of this presentation, I hope that you've had the answers to all of this and more. But if while this presentation is going on, you do have questions, please feel free to type them into the chat function on the event. We can look at those questions, and then towards the end of this, we'll have time to answer any of those questions that have come in. So the aims of our options process. Well, first and foremost, it's to ensure that all our students have a broad and balanced curriculum. And this is a phrase that's bandied about, but what it really means is it's too early in a child's life to start making decisions that say, I'm just going to be an astrophysicist, so I only want to study those things. Children are still at a stage where actually we want them to experience a wide range of different subjects, and actually to have a really good spread of all of that. And our options process is devised so that that's going to happen for all of them. But importantly, what we want from our options process is to ensure that every student can experience success. So we shape the options process to make sure that different students can take the subjects that are best going to support them in getting the very best GCSE results that they can. And an important factor in that, of course, is supporting progression, enabling students to go on to what it is that they want to do next. For some of our students, they'll be leaving at 16 and looking for an apprenticeship, and we want to make sure they've got the basic qualifications that are going to enable them to go on to those apprenticeships. For others, the majority, they'll go on to do A-levels in our sixth form and then go on to university. And we want to make sure that the subjects they're choosing are giving them all the opportunities they need to be able to take the courses they want to. We achieve that by looking at our students in 3 different groups and making sure that what's offered to them is exactly what's going to give them the best chance of success. And we call these our core offer. We have some students who have guided choices and some students who will be taking our supported studies programme. So I'll take you through those one at a time. First of all, the core offer then. So this applies to the majority of students in the year group. And we look at the data we have on those students, and what it tells us is that a full GCSE course is appropriate for them. When I'm talking about data, what I mean is what their teachers are currently saying about them. Are they achieving in their lessons? Are they getting secure, extending, or even exceptional in their lessons? We also, though, look more broadly than how they're doing currently. We look at the CATS data that we've got on students. We look at reading tests that we've done with students, and we even look back at their Key Stage 2 outcomes to make sure that what's happening is that we haven't got students who perhaps are slipping back, and that we're pushing every student to achieve everything that they possibly can. This core offer then, for the majority of students, retains a broad choice of subjects. There's lots of subjects that they can choose from. But we make sure that the structure of the whole thing retains that balance, so that we're not just enabling them to get too narrow, too focused, and not necessarily give themselves the chance to progress as they would want to. Importantly, our core offer gives the opportunity to get the EBAC. Now, you may have heard of the EBAC and you may not, so I'll just talk through it to make sure that we are clear. The EBAC stands for the English Baccalaureate. It's not actually a qualification in itself. It's a recognition that the range of qualifications that a student's got, age 16, are broad and balanced, and demonstrate a really rich academic qualification. In order to get the EBAC, it requires a GCSE, and that's a 5 or above in English, in maths, in science, in a humanity, which in this case means history or geography, and in a language. We strongly encourage this. The government are really keen that a large majority of students should study the EBAC. And although it's not a qualification in itself, given that it's something that is measured, it's something that could be important for students in the future. I've never heard of a university or indeed an employer saying a student hasn't got the EBAC, we're not going to have them. But given that the qualification exists, it's something that we strongly urge you to take a good look at. And for most students who are on that core offer, the important choice there is going to be in terms of humanities. For those students with guided choices, again, we're wanting to ensure that balance. But it is only guidance, as it says here. We're trying to guide those students away from some options which we recognise are less accessible. They're slightly trickier. It may be that these students are less likely to succeed on those options. But we're not saying they can't take them. It's up to the student themselves. What does exist in the guided choices group is that you need to take one of those humanities subjects, either history or geography. It's important though to remember that all the subjects are available, even though we're advising against some of them. And if students on the guided choices do put down on their options form that they'd like one of those more restricted choices, then they'll be spoken to in school before we're necessarily going ahead and saying, yes, that's okay, go ahead and study that. And then our third group of students are those students who will be taking supported studies through Key Stage 4. So supported studies means they will actually take one fewer GCSEs so that we can give them more support in terms of their learning through Key Stage 4. We also give them more support in choosing those subjects. So if your child is on the supported studies pathway, they can expect somebody to speak to them in school about the choices they're making and how to choose those things. But during Key Stage 4, they'll also get more support, more overlearning of maths and English to make sure that they're really secure in those areas. A bit more practice on the science practicals, and also some work on study skills through year 10 and 11. Giving them support on revision skills, giving them support on time management skills, those kind of things that some students will certainly benefit from to get the very best out of their GCSEs. So it doesn't matter which pathway students are on, they're still going to get a broad and balanced curriculum. We've put them into one of these groups in order to best support their success as they go through Key Stage 4. And we're making sure that all students can go on to the things that they want to at 16 and beyond. Whichever of these choices students are doing, it's not about an easy option or a hard option. All students are going to need to work hard. GCSEs are not given away for nothing. They're actually quite hard qualifications, and students need to commit to working hard over the next couple of years to do the very best that they can. But equally, they should have optimism. They should have faith that actually if they do work hard, if they do seek out the support that's being offered in school, they'll be able to achieve, because we're making sure that they're studying those subjects that they stand the very best chance of success in. So what actually is the curriculum going into Key Stage 4? Well, all students will take some non-exam subjects. All students will take some core PE or games, some physical activity, some kind of PE that's actually going to keep them healthy and keep them focused through those years. All students will also study PSHE, Personal, Social and Health Education, and that's delivered in this school by our RE team in those lessons. There are some subjects also that all students will take that they will take exams in. So all students will take an exam in English language and another in English literature. They'll take a GCSE in maths. They'll take GCSEs in science. And in this school, all students will take a GCSE in RE. What choices does that leave then? Well, choices in a range of different areas. There are language choices, first of all, and students may have studied Spanish, French, or German, or a mixture of those. Students can choose to take one of those languages or two. If students are choosing to take two languages, it will be Spanish plus one of the others, Spanish plus French or Spanish plus German. As I said, all students will take science GCSEs as well, but there are choices here too. The basic option is to take double science, combined science, which includes elements of physics, chemistry and biology. Students may instead choose to take triple science if they have a particular interest in science, and in this case they'll take separate GCSEs in physics, chemistry and biology. What's really important about that science choice is to understand that neither of those bars you from any A levels and neither of them bars you from any career going forward. So there's nothing wrong with taking the double science, the combined science, and then going on to science A levels. The reason to take triple science is simply because that particular student loves science and they want to spend more time doing science. If you choose science, you'll get 15 of your lessons per fortnight up in the science labs. That's nearly a third of your time in science lessons. So it's really important that students only choose that if they're really happy to do a lot of science. In humanities, as I've said, the key issue is whether to take history or geography, because all students will take RE. For any students who don't take a language, they must take history or geography. For the students who are taking a language, choosing history or geography is a choice. But remember, it's that choice that gets you the E back. So by choosing history or geography on top of your language, that's what will get you the E back. We have a range of vocational courses and GCSEs. It's important to remember that they're all at the same level and they're all worth the same amount, but they may be assessed differently. And I'll pick some of those out from a list in a moment. There are our restricted options, which are those options that, as we said, we're guiding some students away from because we recognise they may be less accessible. And then there's a set of completely free options that any student can take. So what options are we actually giving? Well, I won't read through all of those that are on the screen because you can see them in front of you. But these are the option subjects available to all students. You'll notice that at the top of that list particularly, we've got a string of GCSEs. But there are also OCR Nationals in there and a BTEC. Those qualifications are worth the same amount as GCSEs. They have the same value as GCSEs, but they may have a different form of assessment. So it's important to consider carefully if one of those is going to be more suitable for you or for your child. It's worth noting that PE GCSE or Sport OCR National are not separate options. A student who wants to choose one of those can only take one of them. And having put that option in, the PE department will then carefully consider which of those two is going to give them the best chance of success and which of the two is going to meet that child's particular needs. So you can only choose that, and then there'll be a further discussion about which one. In those restricted options, you'll notice that these are marked with an asterisk. These are the subjects that we're saying we just want some students to steer a bit clear of, be a bit cautious of. That's not to say they can't take them, but we would want to advise them carefully if that's what they're choosing to do. So computer science, economics, the languages, and that triple science option are all subjects we might want to be a little bit careful about. So who's going to help your child in school make these decisions? Well, first of all, of course, it's you, the parents. And I have said that to the students. It's really important that they listen to you. You've got their best interests at heart. You're heavily invested in their education, and you want to make sure they have the very best chance of success. So I have encouraged them to talk to you, whatever they may be telling you. In school, their tutor will be able to help them as well. Their tutor has heard this same presentation and knows your child well, and may well be able to advise as to which subject or other might be the best choice. But of course, if it's information about a particular subject that's needed, the best thing is to speak to their subject teacher, and they can do that in lesson or by sending them an email. We have our careers advisor in school, Ms. Taylor, and she's going to give some careers interviews, or at least some options interviews, to certain students already. If that's something that your child needs because they're really not sure what options are going to help with their particular career choice, by all means request a careers interview and she can help out at this stage. I'll be available to help out, particularly where there are questions about the technical details of the options process. What choices am I allowed? How do I make those choices? Miss Kelly, the year leader for Year 9, also knows your son or daughter well and be able to help. And it may be that they know older students who have already been through this process or already taken these subjects, and it'd be helpful for them to talk to those students as well. They can also find further advice in other places. They're PSHE sessions, and all children have had a session already at the end of last week or at the start of this talking about how to make important choices in life. There's the options booklet, which they've had a paper copy of already, and they've been sent an electronic copy. And the booklets are slightly different depending on whether we put them into those different groups, the core offer, the guided choices, or the supported studies group. There's this evening, the options evening, and on top of this, there's the stuff that's on the school website. I would strongly urge you to have a look on the school website. You may well have logged on to this event through the website. If you didn't and you went on through the email, do please look at the school website, and there's a banner on the front page which will take you through to the Year 9's options pages. In there are videos by the subject leaders talking about the various options that we offer, and that'll give a good chance for students and for you to understand more about what those subjects are about. There's the assessment point information that you've already received about your child. Are they doing well in certain subjects? Are they working hard in certain subjects? These things might well help to choose which subjects they might want. And there's further online advice available, and that's signposted in the back of the options booklet that, as I say, your son and daughter already has. In all cases, what we're looking for is that broad and balanced curriculum. But please don't take that as a warning. It's important for you to choose things that are broad and balanced. The whole options process is carefully devised to make sure that whatever your son or daughter chooses, they can have a good range of qualifications, and that's going to take them on to what they want to do. So I talked through with the students some of the reasons why they might think of choosing options. And in essence, what I try to do is to go from the worst reasons as I see them to the best. So worst of all, potentially, is my friends are choosing it. Choosing an option because your friends are choosing it is a really bad idea. They're not you. They don't have the same interests as you. They don't have the same strengths and weaknesses as you. The only reason you could possibly be doing that is because you think it'd be really nice to be in a class with them, and there's absolutely no guarantee you'll be in a class with them, because in most subjects there are several different classes, and so you may well end up in a different class anyway. What your friends are choosing is not the best advice for you. Secondly, looking for easy options is probably a bad idea. As I said, GCSEs are valuable. They're valuable because they're hard work. There's not going to be any easy options there, and getting the best grades you're capable of is always going to entail hard work. The fact that a particular student likes a particular teacher is also a bad reason to choose an option. There's no guarantee that that will be the teacher that a child gets at GCSE. There's no guarantee, to be fair, that teacher will still be working here. Teachers leave every year. So picking something for the teacher is not a good choice. And then sometimes I'm told that certain subjects look good, and therefore that's why they're being chosen. I can see a superficial glamour in that, but what's important to understand is that what really looks good is a good set of high-level qualifications. So the key is making sure that you're going to get a whole range of GCSEs and that you're going to get good grades in them across the piece, not that there's a particular GCSE in there. If I fill in a job application form now, I might still include my GCSEs, but I won't list every subject. What I'm likely to do is just give the grades that I got. So the key is making sure that you're going to do well. I'm sorry to say that parents, I've only put about halfway through my list of reasons for choosing, particularly if what it is that you, the parent, likes a particular subject. Now, of course, I know that's not what it's all about, but the key is remembering what is it that this particular child is going to do well in. And it might be, of course, that you've got their best interests in heart, you know that they've got a real interest in this, and you might be giving them really good advice. So I've told your sons and daughters to make sure that they are listening to you carefully to discover why it is that you think a particular subject's a good choice. I want to get the E back. We're getting up to the better ideas now. It may well be the case that having that E back is able to demonstrate for a particular student, yes, I've got a good suite of academic qualifications, and that's going to help me with progression in the future. My sister enjoyed it. Could look a little like my friends are choosing it, but it's not the same thing at all. This is somebody who's already done the course, who's giving advice, who's saying, actually, yeah, that subject was great. It had all sorts of things in that I wasn't expecting, and I really enjoyed it. Could be good advice to help your son or daughter decide which subjects to take. I enjoy the subject is certainly a good reason for choosing a subject. GCSEs are difficult. People are going to be studying them for the next 2 years. You're going to be in lesson after lesson for this subject. It's much easier to do well in a subject if it's something you enjoy. And similarly, if it's something you're good at, you're much more likely to do well in it. Those two things probably overlap a lot of the time. Subjects that students enjoy are likely to be those subjects that they're good at. Subjects you're good at, you're likely to enjoy. And the final reason might well be if there is a particular reason why you need that subject in order to pursue a particular career path or a particular future qualification. So it's important to be thinking about that if that's something that's already in mind. I know that for many students at this age, they won't have the slightest idea of what they're aiming for. And so the best bet is that what they're going to do is achieve that broad and balanced curriculum, get a really good set of qualifications, and go on and achieve further qualifications beyond that, A-levels, degree, or whatever else it might be for them. So this evening, after this event, I'll be sending a further email to each student in Year 9, to which will be attached a link to the electronic options form. And so having heard this, and hopefully looked at the videos online and read the booklet, people will be in a position to choose their options. And as I say, there'll be a slightly different option form depending on which of those groups students have been put into. But it's important to remember that if you feel the options form doesn't meet your needs, come and speak to me. Is there something else that can be done? I've put at the bottom of this slide here the importance of choosing your options in order. We will ask every student to choose a reserved choice. It is sometimes not possible for every student to have the 3 options that they've chosen, and that can be for a range of reasons. It could be, although it's highly unlikely, that not enough students choose a subject for us actually to run a class in that subject. As I say, that's very unlikely. It could be that too many students choose a subject, and we can only run a certain number of classes, and there may not be space for every student who wants to choose that. Or it could be that a particular student chooses a set of choices which just aren't the same as anybody else's, and in the end that can't be fitted into the timetable. In any of those situations, and there will only be a small handful of situations like that arise in any given year, but in any of those situations, it's important that we're able to use a student's reserved choice, and therefore it's really important to know which is their first and most important choice so that it's not that one that I'm knocking out of their options. So that form will come out in an email tonight, as will the links to the business studies and economics talks which are taking place tomorrow night. Those 2 subjects have a separate event like this because those are the subjects where your son and daughter does not have a current teacher who will be able to talk them through those subjects. So instead we put on live events tomorrow night. Once those forms are in, the deadline for getting them back to me is by Monday the 14th of February. That's the Monday of half term. So it gives the first weekend of half term as well in order to help make that choice. What I'm suggesting here is that this should not be a rushed decision. I know that for some students, they already know which options they're going to choose. And the moment I send the form out, they'll send it straight back to me. But for the majority of students, it should be really carefully considered and time taken over it to make sure that the options are right. I always get some students coming back after the date and saying, I want to change my options, which is fine if it fits. But just bear in mind, if you're changing your mind, you will be lower down the priority list than people who got their options form in on time and got it done correctly first time through. So that's the date for the options deadline. Now, I'm aware that some of you have been putting questions through to the meeting as we've been going along. What I'm going to do now then is pause for a while so that you can send in any more questions. And in about 5 minutes' time, we'll come back online to talk about anything that we think is of general interest to everybody. Thank you. Okay, thanks very much. Lots of questions coming in. Some things that certainly I need to go through to make them really clear. So I'll scroll through this list of questions and try and answer your questions as best I can. I think the one that's come up the most often is to do with languages. And I don't think I was clear about that. Our core offer includes languages. All students on the core offer are expected to take a language. We have a strong belief that languages are really valuable, and that where students can achieve a language, they should take a language, because that's a really valuable qualification for them on top of the other ones that they may be doing. So all those students on the core offer are expected to take a language, and therefore are choosing whether to take history or geography in order to get the EBAC. For the students on the restricted choices, on the guided choices or the supported studies, they do not have to take a language. We would accept an application for languages from them, but we'd want to talk to them about that, because, as we say, we want to make sure that students can succeed across those GCSEs. We've got a question about how students get a careers interview if they want to. For that, please speak to your son or daughter's tutor, and your son or daughter's tutor can request an interview if that's necessary in that case. Question about, is it possible to take business and economics together? Yes, both of those can be taken. It's not that one precludes the other, but you can't take, the only ones that you can't take together are the sports studies and the PE GCSE. One key difference between those, and it is a question that's been asked, is if you take the sports studies, the OCR National, that doesn't lead on to the A-level PE. So if you already know that A-level PE is something that you want to take, then taking the PE GCSE will be important. But other than that, the qualifications, it's entirely about which one you're going to do better in, which one you're going to get better grades in. Speaking to somebody about the PE options, it says here, somebody wants to speak to somebody about it. The best person for students to speak to is to speak to the PE teachers who will be able to advise them on that. Can you take design and technology and food and nutrition? Yes, you can. Those are separate courses, so that pairing works as well. Just scrolling down to see what else we've got in the questions. If you start the course then change your mind, how easy is it to change? That's a really difficult question to answer, and of course that starts right from the moment of sending in an options form and then changing your mind. Actually, if students send in an option form and then change their mind before the deadline, they can send in another options form. Click on the same link and go through it, and I can sort that out. I'd really rather not too many students did that, because it's actually quite tricky to work through, but they will still be considered in the same way if their option's in by the 14th of February. If then students change their mind after that date, but before the end of the year, then we'll look at whether that fits with the options and the timetable that have been put together, and we'll look at whether it fits with the sizes of the classes that we've already got in those subjects. And of course, anywhere where we can accommodate that change, we will accommodate that change. We want the students on the courses they want to do. But increasingly, things become more set in their ways, and it may be that fewer and fewer options are actually available to change to. And that applies even then going into year 10. Conceivably, a child could start year 10, start a particular option, and then change their mind and decide they need to take something else. We'd regard this as a really bad idea, because that puts them behind right from the start. But once in a while it does happen. Again, it depends on that option being available in the timetable, and it depends on space being available in those classes. But if that is the case, we would allow an early change of that kind. We wouldn't allow that to take place after about a month or so, because the amount of catching up then just gets too difficult. For other questions, when's the deadline to send in the options? That's the 14th of February. So that first Monday of half term, that options form needs completing and sending in by. So yes, a question about how the languages fits into that. It is the case, so on that core offer, what you're doing is you're choosing a language first and then 3 more options. So yes, it is. The particular question was about Spanish as choice and then 3 more options. Yes, it's the language choice first and then 3 more for those on the core offer. For those with guided choices, it's a history or geography choice first and then 3 more. Triple science counts as a single option, and it results then in 3 separate GCSEs. So the triple science is a GCSE in physics, a GCSE in chemistry, and a GCSE in biology. The combined science, the double science award, has elements of biology, chemistry and physics in it and counts as a double GCSE. So it's one qualification, but it counts as a double GCSE and it encompasses bits of all of those subjects. I think we're there with that one. Art and design tech also are a pairing that work fine. The total number of subjects chosen is 4 for most students. For those on the supported studies, because one of those options is taken by supported studies, they'll actually be choosing 3 subjects, either history or geography, and 2 more. I've got a question here about where are the videos. If you go on the school website, there's a banner there that will take you to the options page, and the subject videos are on there. So the Cambridge National IT does continue on to A-level. There's an IT A-level, so there's no reason why that wouldn't lead to that as well. How many lessons do you get? You get 5 lessons per option subject per fortnight. So 5 lessons per fortnight is the current amount. Can the careers advisor advise on RAF careers? Yes. The great thing about the careers advisor is what she's really aware of is how to find information out. So it's not the case that she knows about every career and can just answer all those questions, but certainly whatever the career, she'll then be able to investigate and discover what it is that's needed there. Can you do geography and history? Yes, you can. It might be that those are 2 choices if you're on the core offer. So you'll take a language and then 2 of your remaining 3 would be geography or history. If you're on the guided choices or the supported studies, you would choose geography or history as the first forced choice and then just pick the other one in the option blocks. You can do computing and IT as well as a pair. Remember, the only pair that you can't do together is the sports studies and the PE GCSE. And I've been asked questions about the reserve choice and how that works. The principle is that you are going to get your first choice. That's why it's really important to put those in the order that you prefer them in. The one that therefore is at most risk of you not getting is the one that you put in as your third choice. That's the one that's most likely to be bumped off if there's a reason to, and therefore go towards the reserve choice at that stage. So I appreciate that's a difficult thing to do, but it's really important that students are already thinking about what would be my reserve, because otherwise people can get very set on saying I must have those 3 subjects, and then if that doesn't fit for them, that can cause great upsets. I have also been asked about whether you can change from one offer to the other. The answer is no. That's put in place in order to make sure that students have got the best chance of success. So as I say, we've looked at all the data we have on students. We've then talked to English teachers and languages teachers, and we've put them into a particular group that is going to give them the very best chance of success. So which offer they've got is not part of the options process. The options are the choices that you make within that area. Okay, it feels as though we're coming to the end of those questions. Oh, I have got a question that says, what if a student only chooses 2 options? That's not possible. In order for a student to have a timetable, they need to make sure that they are following the options process as it's written. So similarly, what we can't do is actually ask for anything that doesn't sit within that options process. It's that that's on offer, and we'll fit the timetable around that. Clearly, we're happy to discuss those things, but that's the principle of how it's going to work, and we're unlikely to be able to change any of that if we come to that. If you do have further questions, please feel free to send them in by email going forward. And I'd just like to remind you of a couple of things then. The deadline for the options form, the 14th of February, and the fact that tomorrow night will be those business and economics talks for any students who are considering taking those options. Thank you very much for attending this evening. I hope that it's been useful. Please do send in any further questions or comments by email. Oh, I'm being signalled to that perhaps I need to. How likely is it that your 4th choice is going to be needed? It's usually a small handful of students across the year group. So if we've got 240 students in the year group, some years it's as low as 2, some years it's as high as 8. I would guess it's that sort of number, but it does depend how those things fall and the options that different students take. Okay, thanks very much then, folks. Hope that's been useful, and best of luck helping your sons and daughters choose their options.